Guys, Chris here, back at the shop again today. Today we are looking at the 1953 Ford Mark I Consol. This car belongs to a guy called Matt Chambers. It's going to be out this year at some point, hopefully. Those of you that know me and follow my social media, you'll know that this has been with us for a while. Initially, this car came in for an 8.5 second roll cage. Once we got it here and we looked through it, it was actually pretty clear that the entire floor pan was rotten. So we discussed the changes with the Matt, and we've actually decided to replace the entire floor pan along with many of the inner panels and the exterior panels. So if you look behind me, you can see that the floor pan is missing, the entire front firewall has been removed, and basically what we've done is got rid of any rust that's going to be in the way of the chassis. Now, when I say 8.5 second, that basically means that a drag racing scrutineer can tag that car to run 8.5 seconds or slower in the quarter mile. What we're actually doing now, because we've had to cut the floor pan out, we're effectively building a new chassis. Although it is box section, it's going to be built to Sfi 25.4D. So what that basically means is it's a certification. For those of you that don't fully understand this, I'll explain it a little bit for you now. So with your car, your road car that you drive every day, at the end of the year or in the middle of the year or whenever it is, you have a standard test. This is called the Mot Test. Now the Mot Test is a Ministry of Transport inspection to confirm that your car is safe for use on Britain's roads. Well, in drag racing, you have a kind of similar certification. It's the Sfi Foundation. Sfi was the SEMA Foundation Inc. This was generated, I think it was 20 something years ago now, but what it is basically a standard that all drag racing parts and vehicles must conform to state that they are safe for drag racing. And you have many, many different levels to this. So this one's 25.4. What that basically means is that it can be a mild steel chassis, maximum weight of 3,600 pounds, and it can run down to 7.5 seconds in a quarter mile. Any faster than that, and it would need changes to the structure of it. So because this is a mild steel vehicle, a mild steel cage, mild steel floor pan, it's going to run to the 25.4D. Sfi specifications are very important. So if you buy a bell housing, it'll be Sfi rated to a certain figure. And now what that figure means is it's power rated and speed rated. Much like the seats are Sfi rated, the harnesses are Sfi rated. There's pretty much everything that goes into an actual competing drag car, 9 times out of 10 has to be Sfi rated. Be it the parachute, even stuff like steering wheel bosses. So the quick release boss behind the steering wheel, that has to be Sfi rated. What that does is allow any manufacturer or people like me or the bigger names out there that build these race cars to operate to a standard. So this part that is Sfi rated means that it will withstand certain impacts at certain speeds in certain scenarios. Again, it relates back to the MOT. It's to basically check and make sure that everything that is being done is to a standard. With the Sfi spec for the chassis, excuse me, the majority of it is for the driver's cell. So where the driver sits, the floor pan surrounding where the driver sits, and it's called a funny car halo that a lot of faster cars have. It's most important to that. And the reasons for that is you create a cell for the driver to sit in, so that in the event of an accident, you know, in drag racing, you could be at the top end of the track. Some of these cars out there now are doing 280 miles an hour when they cross the finish line. If you hit the wall at 280 miles an hour, you need to know that you are safe. So in this instance, it's tagged to 750. Or not right now, but it will be. So he can run down to 7.5 seconds in a quarter mile, unlimited speed. And that basically states that if he has an accident at that speed, he will be safe and he will be able to get out of it with minor injuries rather than serious injury or even death, because that does happen. There have been many cases of vehicles that have not been built correctly, have not been tagged properly, and people have actually died from this. So it's very, very important. And you'll hear me, if you follow my social media or you watch any of my other videos, you'll hear me talk about safety quite a lot. Now for me, safety is paramount, no matter what we're doing, be it an engine build or suspension work or even a complete drag chassis like this and the others that we do. You have to make sure safety is paramount. We see a lot of people where their seats are just bolted in with a couple of M6 bolts, and it doesn't fly with us. We will not work like that. So that's the Sfi Foundation and the basics of it. If you want to know more, just drop a comment below and I can go through it with you, or I can send you some links to the different pages that will help you understand it. So going back to this car, at the moment we've got our rear crossmember in. Because this car is the Sfi 25.4, we can use box section rails. Ordinarily we would actually use tube, but in this instance with budget and timelines etc, the customer wants to run a box section chassis. It actually saves a fair amount of money in the build cost and obviously material costs as well. The labour remains the same because the prep work and the weld work is still the same. This chassis will all be MIG welded, which falls in line with our SFI rating. You can see so far we've got the main hoop, we've got the 4-link in, and we've got the rear stays and the upper diagonals. That is our baseline for this vehicle. Now we've got the main rails in. The next thing for us to do will be mount the motor with the motor plate and the front plate like we've talked about on the Nissan. And then we'll start putting tubes in. We're actually just ordered the correct specification book for this style of chassis. Because it changes probably every 6 months, we need to make sure that we are absolutely up to date with everything that we do. The good thing about the SFI stuff is that the previous one to what we're using now is 25.4C. And the changes between C and D will be a bar needs to be a slightly different size, or it needs to be in a slightly different position, or it needs to be a different wall thickness. So we'll work from that book to create this driver cell for safety and to pass the regulations. This car is very rotten. It's no joke. You can see in the video just how much rust there is, and obviously the customer is aware of this. Matt has been down, we've gone through it and made a decision on what we're doing and how we're doing it. So at the moment we've got the rear end in, we've got the rails in, and we're just waiting for a mid plate to turn up that the customer has ordered himself. So that's where we're at with this vehicle. It's going to run big slicks out back. It runs a small block Ford, I think it's a 302, potentially with nitrous once he's got used to how this vehicle drives. It's only going to be a 2-seater, obviously, because the seat's going to be way further back than it would be. So the rear doors will actually be welded up from the inside so that they're not openable, but they still look, so you still retain the silhouette of that 4-door vehicle. It's quite common with these to weld up the rear doors and use the longer front doors from a Zephyr, I believe. But with this one, we're not doing that. He wants to keep it as a 4-door, and that's where we're going to go with it. So you can see it's on the chassis table, so that it's not necessarily level, but we know that it's flat. And whenever we build anything for a vehicle like this, it's all done from a table, so that no matter where we measure or where we take our angles from, we know it is always the same. For builds like this, accuracy is very important. We try and work down to the nearest 0.25 of a millimetre. Sometimes that's not possible, especially with bodies like this that were further than that out from factory. You know, this car might be 1.5 inches out square from new, which we will try our best to correct and straighten up with the jig. You can see that there's multiple bits of odd box section bolted around, and their job is literally to hold the body as it was before we cut everything out. We've actually had it happen. We've had customers strip their own cars out and start cutting stuff, and the roof skin will move, or the doors then won't shut, or the front end doesn't line up quite right. So we try and make it pretty sturdy so that no matter what we cut out from the inside, it actually stays straight and true to what we need it to build. When the body gets lifted off of this for us to finish welding the chassis, we'll then drop it back over and take all our critical measurements, which are already written down. And a lot of the time with vehicles like this, especially the American stuff, we actually have chassis diagrams of critical dimensions for what they should be, like door shut to door shut, and front left, front right for the wings, etc. So yeah, accuracy is pretty important, and we'll always do our best to get it as close to possible as perfect. Sometimes it isn't possible, but we can only do what we can do. So yeah, that's the 53 Consol. There's probably a few of you out there with your cars with us wondering, well, why haven't you filmed mine yet? Well, the truth is that because I'm actually doing the work, I can only do really one video a week. So stay patient, and as we get throughout the course of the next few months, every single vehicle that's here being built with us, including yours if you're watching this, will be shown on the videos. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining me again today. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe, and you'll see some more cool shit as always.